our very first guest for Tech Tips for Techies and Teachable viewers. And I'd like to ask, who am I speaking with today?
Well, my name is Lorenzo Williams.
Lorenzo Williams. And what was your area of study in school?
It was computer science. I have a BS in computer science with a minor in mathematics.
Excellent. And what do you do now?
Right now, I am an IT specialist, so that kind of blends computer science and IT.
Okay. So, in the most basic layman terms that you could possibly mention, if you were trying to explain how you spend a day at work, what would you tell people?
Well, I um, do remote work on stores. Not going to go into specific of which stores, but I am in charge of doing all of the deployments. If stores have any issues, I'm the one they call to fix it. I'm on a project team of about 8 people. We do about 2,500 stores where we manage them.
Interesting. That sounds like a lot of data running back and forth. My
Yes.
head gets a little bit sore just thinking about it. So we're glad you're out there helping to keep everything running smoothly. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, we are going to begin with a battery of questions. Are you ready for
Yes.
them? Okay. Prayerfully, these questions will not only help those who are already involved in tech, but will also help student viewers and educators, as well as parents, to understand a little bit about what's going on in the world and also maybe how to help their kids who might be interested in technology or going into the fields that are pretty prominent and very important today. So, my first question for you is, what is your current interest in the ever growing field of technology? Like, what really inspires you and makes you want to work in this field?
I really like the fact that technology is changing our landscape. I'm very interested to be a part of that change. And also, what interests me is the policies that are going to have to come in place to deal with that.
I see. Excellent. Oh, that sounds like some heady work there. I understand that you spoke in Washington, D.C. I think it's a member of a team that went from your university. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about that conversation, that conference, that presentation, and what it meant to you as well?
Sure. So that was called the DuPont Summit. Um, it's at uh, it's at a really old type of house called the DuPont House. They meet there once a year and they talk about the current problems or just current trends in technology. Specifically, I was in the data privacy section. So my presentation was to scare everyone with data privacy.
And by that, what do you mean?
So basically, my presentation laid out that data privacy is something that is much deregulated at the moment, and companies tend to take a little more than they tell you, and they tend to do things with it that they don't tell you about.
It sounds like the cryptocurrency scene. So, something that
Yeah,
people feel like really needs to be regulated, but how do we
yes,
get a handle on it? Okay.
exactly.
I guess this is a question I would have for you. What was maybe a number one insight that you were able to provide the conference attendees when you were speaking to them about data privacy?
So the biggest thing that I focus on with data privacy is exactly how much they take and what they do with it. And by they, I mean companies. No one in specific, but companies in general. They'll take things that you do, like your history that you make on social media, for example. Um, they'll tend to use your usage, your stats that you input when you make your account, and they will make these predictions about you, and that is how they sell you ads. And that's what they make their money off of. The
I
problem
see.
is that no one, well, now a good bit more than before, but now people did not know that.
I see. So it sounds like a movie. I think you suggested a documentary. You suggested for my younger son who's interested in programming and coding. I think it was The Social Dilemma. That
Yes,
sounds a little bit like what we see there is actually true. It's not some facade. Is that correct?
yes, it is very true. It is very real, and it is happening and has been happening.
I see. Okay. Mm, I will ask this one other question that's inside of what you just said. At your presentation, did you by any chance give a tip or any type of tips to the individuals, though they might have already been aware, but of ways that you could possibly safeguard your information?
Yes, and really it's the same type of tip that you would give someone when you're trying to teach them how to deal with a spam caller or maybe a fake IRS call. Don't give information that you don't believe they should have or that isn't pertinent to the service that they're providing. And you also should read the terms and conditions when you join the app.
You mean that when you push the link and it shows this
Yes, when
long
people
bevy of
scroll all the way down and just check and keep moving.
you are not suggesting people read all of that information, are you?
I am. I am.
Okay, okay, I understand. And is that because somewhere in those terms and conditions, people are giving away these rights they don't recognize that they might want to keep?
Exactly. So that those terms or conditions, those are what those type of companies, especially think companies, social media companies, that's what they use to justify what they're doing because they put it in there and they might put it on page 500 at the very bottom in 10-point font, but it's in there.
I understand. Yes. Okay. Thank you for that tip. I often get chided by my friends sometimes because I'm always reading everything there is to read.
Hmm.
And they're like, why are you reading all of that? Just click on it already. I said, but you don't understand. All of these words are here because they mean something. Someone created
Exactly.
this. Okay. Thank you so much for that.
Hmm.
Parents, educators, you heard it. You heard it here from someone that knows about it. So please take that into consideration when you're online. Okay. One other question. In fact, I have many others, but one other question in in this area. Mm, what would you tell or could you tell a student who's maybe in middle or high school who wanted to start their first social media account? What would you tell them about what information they needed to give to a provider and what information they really didn't need to give or didn't need to be 100% accurate about?
Okay, so if you're the person that is making the account and you're on the younger side, or if you're the parent of the person making the account, what you need to realize is that you need to put very, very minimal information on Facebook, and that means don't accept their location agreement. You need to don't put your age, your location anywhere, because not only are they using that to market to you or to the child, other people that are on the website can use that as well.
I see. Okay. And I think that's the part people don't recognize. Is sometimes
Right.
you're giving it open to those you can't see. It's not just to the social media company, it might also be
Right.
to others. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that.
Mm.
Okay. So let's go in another direction. Speaking about youth and speaking about parents trying to make sure their youth is the best thing, the question would be what type of background did you have or did you need to learn in order to obtain your degree? And I ask this meaning, did you learn about hardware and networking? Did you learn coding languages? What exactly did you learn to establish yourself a bachelor's degree in computer science?
So my concentration was in software engineering. So I mainly work with software, but in addition to that, there's an engineering aspect with how software merges with hardware. So I also had to have a hardware background as well. The biggest thing that we had to learn is logic,
Mhm.
and not the kind of logic that maybe people are thinking about. It's a different type. It's computer logic, and we had to have a great deal of math.
Okay. So I hear you saying indirectly, if you're a youth that doesn't really care for math, maybe you want to think twice about working in computer science. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing? Um,
Yes.
would it be a particular type of math? What if I'm great in geometry, but I really can't stand algebra, or I'm really good in calculus, but I don't really like anything that has to deal with shapes. So even
It
though
all
there are
depends.
shapes in calc, but what do you think?
It all depends. So you are going to need to know some lower level math. And by lower level math, I mean tangible math. That's like your numbers, your variables. Because when you write code, like if you're doing like a Java program that's doing some calculations, you are going to have to tell the computer to do those calculations.
Mhm.
But what I do with software engineering is we make software, so we have to look above that. So the math that I had to take was theoretical math.
Oh,
Um, it involves a lot of word problems, which everyone hates, and it
yes.
involves a lot of theories that involve logic to get to a conclusion.
Okay, so problem solving, not logic that we would technically use in the legal field or law or
Right.
anything. Okay, I'm understanding. That sounds wonderful. Okay, let's see. I have another question for you. Okay, yes. So if I were the parent of a younger student, and let's say my student is only in middle school, what
Mhm.
would you suggest that student begins to do or begins to work on? Let's say they love math or they love problem solving in general. They do fairly well in math. What would you suggest they need to begin working on in terms of coding and programming? And I understand you mean logic, but give some examples of what they might actually be able to take in school.
So in school, God, it feels forever ago that I was in those young grades, but um, in school, I would really push. If I had a kid in school who was great in math, I would push them to do higher level math, the math that is outside of the curriculum that they're going to offer at school.
Mhm,
And that's going to involve a little work on the parents' part, but it's going to be worth it. I would also do if there's any type of introductory to programming, introductory to logic, introductory to words problem solving, I
mhm,
would do all of those. Even just a regular technology class, because I know they offer in some middle schools.
mhm. What do you feel, or which courses do you think helped you when you were in high school to help you to figure out maybe that computer science was going to be the right field for you? Do you
Um,
remember?
yes, I do.
Okay.
Um, I remember doing an engineering course. And computer science is lot more related to engineering than people think it is.
Mhm,
I did an engineering course and I said that I love the way that these people think, but I
mhm,
wanted to be more computer focused. So then I started to do some entry level programming courses. I think they offered it in maybe the 11th grade, I want to
mhm.
say, when they're ready to kick you out. But they and that really sparked my interest. But you can also do just a general technology course. You can do, I know they have some professional like software courses they offer in high school, like Microsoft Suite and things like that.
Mhm. I think also I have my son has been doing Java, JavaScript,
That's good.
Python.
The very good.
Yes, thank you very much. So which one do you think you've used, or is there one that you've used the most so far since you've left the university?
Um, I, I use a code now that I did not learn in school. I know about 12 languages, but of
Oh,
course, the job that I have now, they wanted something that I did not know. And that's Visual
of
Basic.
course. Oh, Visual Basic, really?
Yes, I
I
code in
know
Visual
Visual
Basic.
Basic.
Yep,
Okay,
VBA and also PowerShell, which is an evolution of Visual Basic.
good. Hmm.
Um,
That's amazing. I have it over there. I had it years ago when I learned Visual Basic, and it came in a box. And I had, there was a box and everything. And I was like, what am I having to learn? It was a long time ago, but I still have it over there. My son laughs at me. He's like, what is that? I'm like, hey, this, these languages change so fast.
they
Okay,
do.
that's amazing you would say that. I
Mhm.
wish I could just run over there and get it and show you. That's it's good to know. Thank you
And
for telling me. Go ahead.
But if you're a high school student and you just want to get into programming, you love programming, Java is really good. Java, you can either do procedural or object oriented with Java. Procedural is for beginners usually, because most people write in object oriented when they write in Java. So Java is really good. That's a standard that we use in the industry, and so is Python. So those are the two, and I'm good that it's good that is learning both of those.
On
But But because those are the two that he is going to most likely be questioned on.
Thank you.
And if
Thank
you
you
know
very
those
much.
two, you can learn anything.
Well, that's good to know because I think Python gave a bit of
It's a
yeah.
headache.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so he's not alone now. He's like, what is that? Always complaining about it. I said, you will learn this. You will need this. Complain all you want. Be a geologist later, but learn this now. So
Yes.
yes, that's what we're dealing with. So thank you. Parents, I am praying that you're getting something out of this conversation. I think I think that Lorenzo is fantastic. He is
Thank you.
you are welcome. He is a very forward thinker, and is currently in a stage in his career that is very early, but early enough to be able to give you some feedback on what you need to know and what you need to look out for your students and educators. I encourage you to listen and take some of this to heart and try to help your students with this information, because this is what we used to say is the way of the future. This is the now. Lorenzo, would you say that?
I would, and I was actually going to say, even if you don't have a kid, or if you yourself don't have an interest in computer science, I still highly recommend that you take those intro to computer, intro to software courses.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't think any of us are going to be able to get around it.
No.
No more. Okay, well, let's see. Thank you. I have another question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so my next question is, given the current social climate, and keen exposure to a need for greater inclusivity in many industries, and it's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion is popping up everywhere. It's always been important, but now companies and people, individuals are trying to actually do something about it to ensure everyone's included. What would you say to student members who are of diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds about venturing into the field of technology? We see commercials all the time where all of these ethnic minorities are being ushered into places like, I think, Google and Amazon. They have commercials that are public, and we're watching this, but that's not the extent nor the range of the technology field out there. So what are you seeing in the field in terms of ethnic minorities being involved?
I see. And what it's funny because what I see now is something that I was told that I wouldn't see when I was very young. Um, I see a lot more inclusivity today. I see people of all backgrounds, all races, especially in my workplace.
Mhm.
Um, and it's good. It's a very good thing because everyone needs to be represented.
You're right. Exactly. Very good. So you would tell ethnic minorities, yes, go for
Oh,
it,
of
strive
course.
for it, because
Yes.
you're going to see yourself when you get to whatever job. You just might possibly see more people than you think that are like you.
Right, you will. And I'll also say that a lot of people in the tech space, I
Mhm.
know that it's not perfect, no space is perfect, but I will say that in the tech space, I am seeing a lot more accepting of different people. And
Okay.
that's as specific as I want to go with that. But it's a lot, people are a lot more accepting than you would
Okay.
think.
Would you say that diverse pools, which this is supposed to be like the best practice or the one note that has been researched and says, yeah, if you have diverse pools, we're going to have a better bottom line, we're going to have more profit, more revenue, we're going to have
Hmm.
happiness in the workplace. Would you say that you believe that a diverse workforce in even the technology arena is also going to benefit technology in the future and benefits those who work there?
Yes, yes, of course. Because it's just that's just basic logic. If you have different backgrounds working, if you have different backgrounds working, they're going to have different thoughts or different suggestions when you make certain apps.
That makes
And
sense.
that's going to one for the company sell more, which is their bottom line at the end of the day. And it's going to make the users feel like people are watching out for them.
Ah, okay. I'm glad to hear that. So you mentioned apps. So apps are always pertaining to large audiences, large groups of people who are from so many backgrounds, we can't even begin to try to
Mhm.
differentiate or start to name them all. So, does that mean that companies that are developing apps sometimes depend on maybe a group or a committee that is specific to making sure that they reach a lot of different groups of people?
So there are policies, regulations, boards, whatever a different company might have. Um, and they're usually inclusivity boards or they're inclusivity checklists that they have to go through when they make an app. And that's usually in the testing phase. And it's very good that we have that because before that was not a thing.
I see. Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you very much. And I was laughing. I smiled so hard because you said the word logic. You said, well, that's just logic. And it's so funny to hear you say that because for the people that are not logical at all, they're like, oh, I don't believe in that logic or logic is, it's not freeing. It doesn't make me free. And I guess I'm on both sides, kind of being logical and spiritual, and you
Mhm.
can't mix the two at the same time or else your head will bust open.
Oil
So it
and
was funny.
water.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, you have to keep them separated. Let me see. Okay, so my next question to you, will have a few more. Is so what then do you think is the greatest strength in technology today? Something that makes you excited even.
Well, the biggest strength in technology is that no one knows where it's going.
Oh,
Technology, it advances exponentially. And
mhm.
that's just from what we know today. It might even advance faster than that in the future. But
It's
it
true.
advances up so quickly, and there's so much change happening every single day. You just said, like you said, you have Visual Basic, your old book in the back. I
Yes.
and that's probably much, much different from the Visual Basic that I use today.
Yes.
Um, and with that, that means that we have the power to change it. We have a power to steer the course of technology as it's changing. So if there's anything that is maybe unfair that we don't like about it, you can actually do something about it because it is not something that's set in stone and it never will be set in stone.
This is nice. What would you like to do? Like, what is your interest? I think you mentioned policy a little bit earlier. What is an interest you have for the future in terms of being involved with a separate arm of technology?
My interest, I'm very good at coding. I like to say I'm very good at coding.
I'm
Um,
sure you are.
but I don't see myself doing the change that I want to do just being a programmer.
Okay.
I'm in here now in this space, in this role, so that I can get a good foundation so that I know what I'm talking about when I get there. But
Yes.
eventually, I want to work in policy, and I
Mhm,
also want to be maybe a CTO, a chief technology officer.
mhm,
But mostly, I'm very interested at the moment in the policy sector because that is something that's very, very hot right now.
mhm.
Because there's people running around with their heads cut off
Yes.
about what are we going to do about this policy? How are we going to regulate the tech industry? How are we going to regulate social media websites? And
Mhm.
there's no answer for it right now.
The funny things about policies, Lorenzo, and this is in any industry, is that it always takes something to not work quite right before
It's
you can figure out.
reactionary,
That's it.
right?
That's it.
Um, and but the thing is that we have already had these things happen. So
Mhm.
we're trying to get the ball rolling a little quicker on the policy in the tech industry
Yes.
because we have already started to see where things could go if we don't.
Follow the money. The
Hmm.
issues that create the biggest problems with money,
Hmm.
those are going to be the ones. What is it? The squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, or something of that nature.
Hmm.
So yeah, the problems that are going to be the greatest problems that can bring down an economic infrastructure.
Those are the ones
Most.
we'll solve
That's right. First.
first, right?
That's it. Okay, so my last question to you is, what ideas do you have concerning the future of technology? I know you just spoke about it growing exponentially, but in the next 20 years or so, what do you think we'll see besides flying cars that Japan is supposed to have ready in 2023? We're just 2 years away from that. So in the next 20 years, what do you think we might see?
I think. that our biggest issue, and that's what we use technology for. Technology is a tool. We use it to fix things. Um, I I think the next issue that we're going to try to tackle with some technology is global warming. I think that that is an issue that needs to be fixed, and I think it will end up being solved with technology because global warming is a giant umbrella. Because under that, you have things like flying cars and more renewable energy and more efficient ways to do things. And that's what we're going to start doing with technology.
Well, there was or is, and I want to call it a study or a project underway at Harvard where they have mentioned shooting particles into the sky to help cool the
Hmm.
air.
Yep, I read that. Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right. And I guess we'll see what happens. I would have to ask you to come back because I have some particular things I'd like to talk to you about. And I think people would like to hear about it. And maybe we can put some segments up on the screen and maybe have some discussions about some things that are going on out there in technology. Would you be interested in that?
I would. I was being really general on this initial podcast, but I would love to get much more specific,
Okay.
as specific as you have time for later on.
That would be great. And I can hear some kids and parents and educators now saying, "But you didn't ask him about this and you didn't ask him about that. And why didn't you say this? And I want to know."
Yeah,
And I'll just say to that, well, we'll have to have Lorenzo come back again since he has agreed, and maybe we can touch base on some more specifics.